This is the story of how one unexpected moment changed everything, how fear became courage, silence became truth, and friendship became something I never dared to dream of. If you've ever wondered whether love can find you when you least expect it, stay with me. Because what happened that night? Well, it surprised even me. The apartment wasn't much a two-bedroom. Walk up in Brooklyn with temperamental heating and a landlord who believed fixing things promptly was a foreign concept. But it was mine. Well, half mine. The other half belonged to Marcus Chen, a software engineer I'd found through a Craigslist ad 6 months ago when my previous roommate moved to Seattle with his girlfriend. I still remembered our first meeting. I'd been nervous sitting in a coffee shop and checking my phone every 30 seconds, wondering if I'd recognize him from his profile picture. When he walked in, I'd known immediately. Marcus had this presence not loud or showy, but magnetic. He was tall, athletic, without being bulky, with dark hair that fell just slightly over his eyes and a smile that seemed to light up his entire face. "Ethan," he'd asked, extending his hand. "That's me," I'd replied, hoping my palm wasn't too sweaty. 6 months later, we'd fallen into an easy rhythm. Marcus worked long hours at a tech startup in Manhattan, usually coming home around 8 with takeout containers and stories about his demanding boss. I worked as a graphic designer for a small creative agency, which meant I had more flexible hours but significantly less predictable income. We'd become friends, real friends. The kind who could sit in comfortable silence, who knew each other's coffee orders, who texted each other random memes at 2 in the morning. Marcus introduced me to Korean dramas and taught me how to make proper kimchi fried rice. I got him into indie music and convinced him that reading physical books was superior to audiobooks, no matter how convenient. But there were things we didn't talk about. Marcus dated occasionally. I'd see him get ready for date's nice shirt, cologne that made the bathroom smell like cedar and citrus, a nervous energy that was almost endearing. He'd mention a woman named Sarah, or was it Sandra? I never asked for details, and he never offered. As for me, I didn't date. At all, it wasn't that I didn't want to. I just couldn't, not yet. Not while I was still figuring things out. Not while I was still pretending to my family, back in Ohio, that I was just too focused on my career to worry about relationships. Not while I was still lying, too. Myself, the first crack appeared on a Tuesday in October. I was working late in my room, designing a logo for a new coffee shop client, when I heard Marcus come home. The door opened and closed with more force than usual, and I heard him drop his bag on the floor with a heavy thud. Rough day. I called out, saving my work. Could say that, came his muffled response. I found him in the kitchen, loosening his tie with one hand while reaching for a beer with the other. His usually neat hair was disheveled, and there was a tightness around his eyes that I'd rarely seen. "Want to talk about it?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. He popped the cap off his beer and took a long drink before answering. "Got passed over for a promotion. Again, they gave it to Brad. No, the guy who spends half his day playing ping pong and the other half taking credit for other people's work." "That's bullshit," I said, and meant it. Marcus was brilliant at what he did. I'd seen him stay up until 3 a.m. debugging code, perfecting presentations, going above and beyond. Yeah, well, he shrugged, but I could see the hurt beneath the casual gesture. My boss said I need to be more assertive. Apparently being good at my job isn't enough. Grabbed a beer for myself and sat across from him at our small kitchen table. You know that's code for something else, right? "What do you mean?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "Brad's a 6-foot-tall white guy who speaks like he's auditioning for a TED Talk. You're not that. Some people have to work twice as hard to get half the recognition." Marcus looked at me with something that might have been surprise. "I didn't know you paid that much attention." "I pay attention to things that matter," I said quietly. Something shifted in the air between us. Marcus held my gaze for a moment longer than necessary, and I felt my heart rate pick up. Then he looked away, taking another sip of his beer. "Thanks, man," he said. "That actually helps." We spent the rest of the evening watching a mindless action movie, sitting on opposite ends of our worn couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn. But I kept stealing glances at him in the flickering light of the TV, noticing things I'd been trying not to notice for months. The way his hands moved when he talked. The sound of his laugh, genuine and unguarded. The slope of his shoulders when he relaxed. The kindness in his eyes. Stop it, I told myself. He's your roommate. He's straight. This is never going to happen. But the heart doesn't listen to logic. November arrived with unseasonable warmth. Then suddenly, violently, it didn't. The storm hit on a Friday evening. I'd been at a client meeting in Manhattan and had to run 3 blocks to the subway station as the sky opened up. By the time I got home, I was drenched. My hair plastered to my forehead, my shoes squelching with every step. Marcus was already there, which surprised me. He usually worked late on Fridays. "Jesus, you look like you swam home," he said, looking up from his laptop on the couch. "Feels like it," I muttered, dripping onto our hardwood floor. "Sorry about the mess. Go shower before you catch pneumonia. I'll make tea." 20 minutes later, warm and dry in sweatpants and an old college hoodie, I joined Marcus in the living room. True to his word, he'd made tea my favorite Earl Grande, had even lit some candles because apparently the storm had knocked out power on our block. Very romantic, I joked, immediately regretting it. But Marcus just smiled. I aim to please. The candlelight cast dancing shadows across his face, and I had to remind myself to breathe normally. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, and thunder rumbled in the distance. "This is kind of nice, actually," Marcus said, setting his laptop aside. No distractions. No emails, just this. "Yeah," I agreed, cradling my warm mug. "When's the last time we just sat and talked?" "Really talked?" He thought about it. "Honestly, I'm not sure. We're always busy, or tired, or distracted. So let's talk now," I suggested, feeling bold in the darkness. "What's something I don't know about you?" Marcus leaned back, considering. "I wanted to be a musician when I was younger. Played guitar all through high school. Had a band and everything. No way. What happened? My parents happened. They didn't flee China and work their asses off so I could waste my potential strumming a guitar. Their words, not mine." He said it lightly, but I heard the old wound beneath. "But you still play?" "Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep. I have an electric guitar I keep in my closet. I've lived here for 6 months and never knew that." "That's kind of the point," he said with a sad smile. "Some dreams are easier to keep hidden." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest ache. "I get that," I said softly. "More than you know." "Your turn," Marcus said. "What's something I don't know about you?" "Everything," I thought. "You don't know anything real about me. I started, then stopped. The words were right there, pressing against the back of my teeth. This was my chance. In the candlelight, with the storm raging outside, with Marcus looking at me with those impossibly kind eyes. But fear won, the way it always did. "I wanted to be a painter," I said instead, offering a half-truth. "Like a real artist? But I wasn't good enough, so I became a graphic designer. It's close enough, right?" Marcus frowned. "I've seen your work, Ethan. You're incredibly talented. Talented enough to design logos for coffee shops. Not talented enough for galleries. Maybe you're just scared," he said, and the accuracy of his words hit me like a physical blow. "Maybe," I admitted. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain. I thought the conversation was over, but then Marcus spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," broke up with Sarah. Or Sandra. Whatever her name was. 3 weeks ago? Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be. It wasn't. It wasn't real. None of them were real. I didn't know what to say to that, so I waited. "I keep trying," Marcus continued, staring at the candle flame. "Keep thinking that if I just find the right person, it'll feel the way it's supposed to feel. But it never does." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "How is it supposed to feel?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. Like I can't breathe when they're around. Like everything is more vivid, more intense. Like I'm terrified and exhilarated at the same time. Like I've been living in black and white, and suddenly everything is in color. The candles flickered. Thunder rolled overhead. and I couldn't help but wonder if he was describing exactly how I felt every time he walked into a room. That sounds... I swallowed hard. That sounds intense. Yeah, Marcus said, his eyes still locked on mine. It does. The moment stretched between us like a taut wire, ready to snap. I should have said something. Should have been brave. Should have reached across the small distance between us and taken his hand. But I didn't, and the moment passed. Marcus stood abruptly. It's late. I should probably get some sleep. Early morning tomorrow? On a Saturday? Gotta go into the office. Make up for that promotion I didn't get, right? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Marcus, good night, Ethan. I sat alone in the candlelight long after he disappeared into his room, replaying every word, every look, every almost moment. The rain continued to fall, and I wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. The week after the storm, things felt different, off balance, like we'd opened a door neither of us knew how to close. Marcus threw himself into work with even more intensity than usual. Some nights, he didn't come home until after midnight. When he did, he'd head straight to his room with barely a greeting. Our easy rhythm had become an awkward dance of avoidance. I told myself it was for the best. Whatever I'd been feeling, whatever I'd imagined I'd seen in his eyes, that night it was better to let it fade. We had a good thing as roommates. Why risk that for something that probably only existed in my imagination? But loneliness has a way of gnawing at you. On Thursday evening, I was editing photos for a client when I heard guitar music. Soft, melancholic, drifting through the walls from Marcus's room. I'd never heard him play before. It stopped me mid-click. The melody was beautiful, sad, and searching, like a question that didn't have an answer. I found myself standing in the hallway outside his door, just listening. The music spoke of longing, of things left unsaid, of chances not taken. When it stopped, I realized I had tears on my cheeks. I knocked softly. Marcus. Silence. That was beautiful, I said through the door. More silence then. Thanks. Can we talk? I'm kind of tired, Ethan. Please. A long pause. Then the door opened. Marcus looked exhausted. His hair was messy, and he was wearing an old t-shirt and pajama pants. He held an acoustic guitar, clearly different from the electric one he'd mentioned, and his expression was guarded. What do you want to talk about? He asked us. This weirdness between us. I miss my friend. Something flickered in his eyes. Your friend? Yeah, my best friend, actually. And I feel like I'm losing him. Marcus set the guitar against the wall and sat on the edge of his bed. After a moment's hesitation, I sat beside him, careful to maintain distance. You're not losing me, he said quietly. I needed some space to think. About what? About a lot of things. About why I keep sabotaging any relationship before it gets serious. About why I can't feel what I'm supposed to feel. About why he stopped himself, jaw clenching. Why you what? He turned to look at me, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. About why the only time I feel like I can breathe is when I'm around someone I can't have. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy with meaning, Marcus. I started, but he shook his head. Forget it. I shouldn't have said that. You should go. No. The word came out firmer than I intended. No, I'm not going anywhere. Not until you explain what you mean. Ethan, please, do you have feelings for someone? I pushed, needing to know, even if the answer destroyed me. Is that what this is about? Marcus laughed, but it was a broken sound. You really don't see it, do you? See what? He stood abruptly, running his hands through his hair in frustration. I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend anymore. I can't keep acting like everything is fine when he spun to face me. When I can't stop thinking about you, when I notice every little thing you do, when I come home early, just hoping you'll be there? When I lie awake at night knowing you're just on the other side of that wall, and it takes everything in me not to." He stopped. Chest heaving, looking as shocked by his confession as I felt. I stood slowly, my legs unsteady. "Not to what?" "Ethan, don't." "Not to what, Marcus?" He closed his eyes. "Not to walk through that door and tell you the truth. That I'm falling for you. That maybe I've been falling for you since the day we met. That every date I've been on was an attempt to convince myself I'm not. That I don't." He opened his eyes and they were bright with unshed tears. "That I'm not gay." The world tilted. Everything I'd been feeling, everything I'd been afraid of, everything I'd thought was one-sided suddenly rearranged itself into a new configuration. "You" couldn't form a complete sentence. "I know," Marcus said, his voice rough. "I know you don't feel the same way. I know you probably think this is weird and uncomfortable, and you're probably already thinking about how to find a new roommate without making it awkward. But I couldn't keep lying. I couldn't keep pretending that I kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't smooth. I just crossed the space between us and pressed my lips to his, cutting off his spiral of words with action because I'd spent too long living in fear and I was done. I was so done pretending. For a heartbeat, Marcus froze. Then he was kissing me back, his hands coming up to cup my face. And it was like every cliche I'd ever rolled my eyes at suddenly made perfect sense. Fireworks, butterflies, coming home. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus's eyes were wide with wonder. "You," he started. "I'm gay," I said, the words I'd never spoken aloud before tumbling out. "I've known for years, but I've been too scared to admit it, too scared to tell anyone, too scared to live my truth. But Marcus, God, I've been falling for you too. Every single day. Every smile, every conversation, every moment we've shared. Why didn't you say anything? Because I thought you were straight. Because I thought I was protecting myself. Because I'm a coward." "You're not a coward," Marcus said fiercely. "You're brave. You're so brave." "I don't feel brave. You are." "And Ethan?" He pressed his forehead against mine. "I'm scared too. I'm terrified. I've spent my whole life trying to be what everyone expected. The perfect son, the successful engineer, the guy who dates women and doesn't make waves. Coming out, being myself fit, means losing all of that. Maybe," I said softly. "Or maybe it means gaining something real." We talked until dawn, sitting on Marcus's bed. Then the floor, then moving to the kitchen for tea. Then back to the living room as the sky slowly lightened outside the windows. We talked about everything: our childhoods, our fears, our first crushes, the moments we knew. The years we spent hiding. Marcus told me about the boy in his high school, the guitar player in his band who had looked at him in a way that made his heart race. About the panic attack he'd had afterward, the promises he'd made to himself to be normal, about the girls he'd dated. Nice girls who deserved someone who could love them fully, not someone going through the motions. I told him about growing up in a small Ohio town where gay was still used as an insult. About my father's casual homophobia, his jokes about those people, about watching other kids come out and seeing how they were treated, how they were othered, about the shame I'd carried like a stone in my chest. "My mom would be okay with it, I think," I said as the sun began to rise. "She's pretty liberal. But my dad, I don't know if I can handle losing him." "You might not lose him," Marcus offered. "People can surprise you. Have you told your parents?" He laughed bitterly. "Are you kidding? They're already disappointed I'm not a doctor. Being gay would be like the ultimate failure in their eyes. That's not fair to you." "No," he agreed. "But it's reality." We're sitting close now, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. It felt natural, right? Like we'd been doing this for years instead of hours. "So what do we do now?" I asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Take it slow. Figure things out together. I've never done this before. I've dated a guy, never been in a real relationship where I actually felt something. Me neither. The dating guy's part or the real relationship part. Then we'll figure it out together." He pressed a kiss to my hair and I felt it all the way to my toes. No pressure. No expectations, just us. I like the sound of that. Me too. We spent that Saturday in a bubble of our own making. Marcus called in sick to work for the first time in the year he'd been at his job. I pushed all my client deadlines to Monday. We ordered Thai food and watched movies and talked and kissed and slowly, carefully. I know what you mean, I said, tracing invisible patterns on his arm. But it is true. We're here. This is real. Yeah, he breathed. His reality came crashing back on Monday. Marcus went to work and I tried to focus on my designs, but I kept checking my phone, smiling at his texts, feeling like a teenager with a crush. Which, in a way I was. This was all new, all thrilling, all terrifying. But that evening, when Marcus came home, he looked shaken. What's wrong? I asked immediately. He dropped his bag and loosened his tie with shaking hands. Brad saw me. Saw you what? Saw me looking at my phone. Saw me smiling. Asked who I was texting. Marcus started pacing. I said a friend. He made some joke about it being a girlfriend. And I couldn't do it, Ethan. I couldn't lie again. So I said it was someone I was seeing. Okay, that's good, right? That's honest. He asked what her name was. Marcus stopped pacing and looked at me with anguished eyes. And I said I didn't want to talk about it. And the way he looked at me like he knew, like he'd figured it out, Marcus, breathe. What if he tells people? What if it gets around the office? What if I crossed to him and took his hands? What if it does? Would that be the end of the world? It could be the end of my career. Or it could be the beginning of you living authentically. It's easy for you to say, he shot back, pulling away. You work as a freelancer. You don't have to see the same people every day. You don't have to worry about being passed over for promotions because you're not the right fit. The words stung, but I tried not to show it. You're right. I don't. But Marcus, you can't live your whole life afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm being realistic. You're terrified, and I get it. But hiding who you are, it's killing you? I can see it. You've been hiding too, he pointed out. You haven't told anyone either. I know. And I hate it. I hate lying to my parents. I hate avoiding questions about my dating life. I hate feeling like I'm living half a life. I took a breath. But meeting you, being with you, it's making me want to be braver. Marcus's expression softened. Ethan, we don't have to tell everyone tomorrow. We don't have to post it on social media or make some big announcement. But maybe we can start small. Maybe we can tell one person each. Who would you tell? I thought about it. My mom. Just her at first. Test the waters. And if she doesn't take it well, then at least I'll know. At least I won't be carrying this secret alone anymore. Marcus sat heavily on the couch. I don't know if I can do it. Sat beside him. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But Marcus, this thing between us, it's not going to work if we're both hiding. Relationships need sunlight to grow.
Ow.
When did you become so wise? About 5 minutes ago? I smiled weakly. I'm terrified too. But I'm more terrified of losing you because we were too scared to fight for this. He reached for my hand, threading our fingers together. Give me some time. Let me think about it, okay? But I could see the walls going back up, and it scared me more than any confession. The next few days were strained. Marcus and I tiptoed around each other, the joy of our weekend together buried under the weight of reality. We'd text during the day, nothing too revealing, just enough to stay connected, but our evenings were careful, measured. We'd watch TV on opposite ends of the couch. We'd say goodnight without kissing. It felt like we were moving backward. It was breaking my heart. On Wednesday evening, I made a decision. I called my mom. Ethan. What a nice surprise, she said, her warm voice immediately making me feel like a kid again. How are you, sweetheart? I'm good, Mom. I need to tell you something. I heard the concern creep into her voice. Is everything okay? Are you sick? No, nothing like that. I took a breath, thinking of Marcus, of bravery, of all the years I'd wasted being afraid. Mom, I'm gay. Silence, my heart pounded in the quiet. I was sitting on my bed, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles were white. Ethan, she finally said, and I braced myself. Oh, honey. How long have you known? Years. Since high school. Really? You've been carrying this alone all this time? Her voice cracked. Baby, why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared. I didn't know how you'd react. And Dad, your father is not you. Your father has his own journey to make. But you are my son, and I love you exactly as you are. Always have, always will. The tears came then, hot and fast. Really? Really? God, Ethan, I wish I'd made it clearer that you could talk to me about anything. I wish I'd told you more explicitly that love is love, that who you are is beautiful and worthy, and she was crying too now. I'm so proud of you for telling me. We talked for over an hour. She asked questions, thoughtful ones, loving ones. Was I seeing anyone? How was I doing? Did I have support? She told me about her friend's son who'd come out a few years ago, about the PFLAG chapter in her town she'd secretly been attending to learn more. You went to PFLAG meetings? I asked, stunned. I had a feeling, she said gently. Call it mother's intuition. I wanted to be ready when you were ready to talk to me. When we finally hung up, I felt lighter than I had in years. One person knew. One person loved me anyway. It was a start. I found Marcus in the kitchen, reheating leftover pizza. You're smiling, he observed. Really smiling? I told my mom. His eyes widened. You what? I called her. Told her I'm gay. And Marcus? She was amazing. She already knew, or suspected, and she's been educating herself. And she loves me. And I laughed, dizzy with relief. It went so much better than I ever imagined. Marcus set down his pizza and pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, that took real courage. We stood there in our tiny kitchen, holding each other, and I felt something shift between us. A door opening instead of closing. You don't have to do the same, I said into his shoulder. I'm not trying to pressure you, I know. He pulled back to look at me. But maybe I could try. In my own way. Marcus's own way turned out to be subtle but meaningful. He started by putting a small rainbow pin on his laptop bag. Nothing obvious, nothing that shouted, but they're visible. Baby steps, he said, when I noticed it. At work. He stopped avoiding pronouns when Brad asked about his someone special. He didn't explicitly come out, but he stopped lying. When people made assumptions, he gently corrected them, or stayed silent. A silence that spoke volumes. And at home, we stopped hiding from each other. We'd cook dinner together. His arms around me from behind as I chopped vegetables. We'd fall asleep on the couch during movies, tangled together. We'd kiss in the hallway, in the kitchen. In any of the spaces that were ours, it felt like coming alive after years of sleepwalking. I want to take you somewhere, Marcus said one Saturday morning as we lingered over coffee. Where? It's a surprise, but wear something nice. That evening, he drove us into Manhattan to a small jazz club in the Village. The kind of place with dim lighting, intimate tables, and a live band that made the walls pulse with music. I used to come here in college, Marcus explained, as we settled into a corner table. When I was trying to figure myself out, it was one of the few places where I felt like I could breathe. Where I could see couples like us, and imagine that maybe, someday, I could have that too. I reached across the table and took his hand, not caring who saw. You have it now. His smile was radiant. Yeah, I do. We listened to the music, we danced awkwardly at first, then with more confidence we existed in public as what we were. Two men in love. It was terrifying and exhilarating and absolutely perfect. As we walked back to the car later, hand in hand down the city streets, Marcus stopped suddenly. What is it? I asked. I want to tell my sister. You have a sister? He laughed. Yeah, older. She lives in California with her husband and kids. We're not super close, but she's always been the more open-minded one in the family. I think she'd understand. Then tell her, will you be there? Right, Dylan? You used to talk about him constantly. Dylan's so talented. Dylan's so cool. Dylan has the best smile. She grinned. I was just waiting for you to figure it out yourself. Why didn't you ever say anything? Her expression turned serious, because it wasn't my journey to take. You had to come to it yourself. But Marcus, I'm so glad you did. And Ethan, she looked at me. You take care of my little brother, okay? I will, I promised. After the call ended, Marcus sat in stunned silence. Your whole family isn't going to be like your parents, I said gently. Some people might surprise you. I can't believe she knew. People often do. They're just waiting for us to be ready. He turned to me, eyes bright. I think I might be ready. Not for my parents, not yet. But to stop hiding everywhere else? You sure? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. It was a Friday evening. 3 months after that rainy night when everything changed, Marcus had invited some of his work. Friends over for drinks, a small gathering, nothing fancy. It was the first time I'd meet them, the first time he'd have people over since we'd gotten together. I was nervous, fussing with the appetizers I'd prepared, when Marcus came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Relax, he murmured. They're going to love you. What if they're weird about us? Then they're not really friends. The doorbell rang, and my stomach clenched. But Marcus took my hand and squeezed it. Together, he said. Together, his friends were nice, genuinely nice. There was Claire, a project manager with a sharp wit. Dev, a fellow engineer who brought excellent wine. And surprisingly, Brad, who Marcus had apparently misjudged. I owe you an apology, Brad said to Marcus, as we all settled in the living room. I was an ass about the promotion. You deserved it more than me. Marcus looked startled. Thanks, man, and I'm glad you're happy. Brad glanced between us. You two seem really good together. The evening flowed easily after that. Stories, laughter, terrible jokes. At one point, Claire pulled me aside in the kitchen. I'm really glad Marcus found you, she said. He's been different lately. Lighter. More himself. He is pretty amazing, I agreed. So are you, I can tell. When everyone left around midnight, Marcus and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. Once the apartment was back in order, we collapsed on the couch. That went well, I said. Better than well. It was perfect. Your friends are great. Yeah, he pulled me closer. And they know about us now. Really know. And the world didn't end, told you. You're very smug when you're right. I contain multitudes. He laughed and kissed me, and I marveled at how natural it all felt now. How right, Ethan? He said after a while. Yeah. That night, the rainy night, when I almost told you how I felt but chickened out, do you ever think about it? All the time. I'm glad the power went out. I'm glad we had that conversation in the dark. I think I needed the cover of shadows to be brave enough to start being honest. And now I want to be brave in the light. He sat up, turning to face me fully. I want to introduce you to people as my boyfriend. I want to hold your hand in public. I want to post pictures of us together. I want to live our truth, even if it's scary, Marcus. I'm not ready to tell my parents yet. That's going to take more time. But everyone else? The world. I'm done hiding. Life's too short, and you're too important. I felt tears prick my eyes. I love you. I don't think I've said that yet, but I do. I love you so much. I love you too. I think I have since that first day in the coffee shop when you were so nervous you spilled sugar all over the table. I notice everything about you. We made love that night, slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies the way we'd learned each other's hearts. And afterward, lying tangled in his bed with the city lights filtering through the windows.